Hello there. Welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we saved the planet, which is a self-congratulatory way to say that we stopped completely neglecting our citizens' health for the first time I'll play through. We built a wastewater treatment plant so we could stop dumping sewage into the ocean. We built an incineration plant so we could stop throwing trash in the ocean. And we built not one, but two exhaust scrubbers. The first here at our power plant processes all of the exhaust, not just from our power plant, but from all of our smelting type factories that process raw goods and pump out exhaust. We built the second one over here, servicing our refinery and distillation station setup, which we also revamped last time. In addition to that, we started collecting biomass from our settlement, which gave us waste avoidance and something better than coal to burn over here at the power plant. And we set up settlement recycling. All of that reduced pollution from a minus 28 health penalty at the very beginning of the episode to the 7-ish penalty that you see here today. We've been rewarded with a small bonus to Unity production, but more importantly, a workforce that doesn't die off faster than we can recruit their replacements. Now today, I'd like to immediately backslide our green movement by expanding our oil refinery. We've already queued up naphtha processing and reforming and cracking from the last episode. Once those techs are researched, we'll dive into that expansion. While it's researching though, we've got a couple quick follow-ups and odds and ends to square up around the base. So I'll unpause and let's get after it. The first is our glass production is a little bit lagging. This is partly our fault because I clogged up the recycling plant for a moment and we're still processing through that, which is why we're boosting here, but we actually cannot supply 72 twice through a 60 belt, obviously. So we need to quickly upgrade not just these two, but also this one, because while it's boosted, this only takes 60. We really would like to be providing the full 72. So some throughput issues sorted. Coal should not be an issue. But it does also seem, yeah, there we go. Oh my goodness, like this never got the slag output or the molten channel output. So that's been a bit of a waste. Man, we are really checking the box on me breaking a system by missing a single square of belt early this episode. Hopefully, that's the last time. One other thing I wanted to do, there was a post in the subreddit that identified something that does bother me about this game, which is alert bloat. And I think that this system is super helpful, but there's a lot of stuff that triggers it, particularly by default, that I don't really want necessarily to know every single time, and I think that that gives sort of alert fatigue, and then you don't bother looking when something that is important or that is slowing things down actually does pop up. So, clear that alert. What I'm going to do, because we have been overflowing on these farms for quite some time, I'm going to, rather than just rolling my eyes and dismissing this for the millionth time, I'm going to be intentional and proactive about managing our alerts a little bit more. I don't care if we can't store more. It's really not a problem to us. Plus, this little icon is still there. So, now when we delete that, it should stay deleted. Similarly, I really don't think we need this alert. So I'm going to trim it. So I'm going to try, going forward, to do two things. One, be more intentional about removing alerts. And two, actually stop and see what the alert is when it pops up. Now this tech alert is, I do think, kind of helpful I like to dismiss things as we build them. I will say I tend to do this kind of between episodes, so this is me attempting to do this more on the film. But these are all things that we have already done. These are all things that we have unlocked, but not yet made use of. And I'll go ahead and dismiss this one because we just aren't going to make use of it. And we get these other buildings through other means. But these are all things that we will eventually take a peek at. So staying tidier there as well. Now, how is this looking? Are we going a little bit faster here? The recycled output is full because, of course, yep, didn't build this. Tremendous work. But this side is going. Are we going to have throughput issues on that? No, shouldn't be once it unclears, because that should be 48, still fine on a 60 belt. And look at that. This is already clearing through. So, we'll keep an eye on it, but that should be a lot better. There's a non-zero chance that we end up needing to build more of this, but I think for now, boosting should help. We are having cascading, not real issues, but cascading impacts. It's slowing, but not stopping, our research production, and same thing could be true over here for vehicle parts production if we weren't careful, but we did take care of it, so that's good. Glass sorted. The other thing I noticed is that we started using more limestone, and I took a glance at this before I turned the camera on and I went, oh no, are we running out? And then I realized that these 4 trucks were running out to various points in the base where we use limestone. Because if you look, we got plenty of limestone everywhere we use it. That's not the issue. But what we need to do, and you can see it happening right here, is restrict the paths that, although I guess this guy was just refilling, but that this guy, for example, is taking. I don't want the guy whose job it is to service the excavator to be the one making that trip. We have an entire base full of very idle trucks with nothing else to do. So let's be a little bit more intentional about that. Again, as a reminder, the way that we do this is we set an export route from the place where these trucks are assigned, and we say you have to go either to the sorter if you have a mixed load, or to the single output limestone storage if you have a full limestone load. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Minor tweak that should hopefully be helpful. Last thing. I was all excited and totally advertised that we built settlement recyclables. And we built this high throughput belt that goes directly over and it gets its own special input to our recycling sorting plant. And then I realized we don't actually produce recyclables yet. Recyclables only come out if you are consuming a good, and we get the output once it's sorted based on what kind of good that is. So we get recyclables from our research lab because they consume lab equipment too. Over here, where we make lab equipment too, we put in some glass, and further upstream we put in some steel. And so we get glass and iron recyclables coming out. Same thing's true over here. We get copper and iron out because we use copper in electronics and iron, although it's steel, right? Same basic ore input in mechanical parts. We don't actually consume anything in the base, in the settlement rather, yet that uses any of those inputs. We consume food, water, electricity. That's it. So how could we have anything to recycle? Well, we could, and in fact, there's a reason this is the precursor. We could supply this household goods technology and resource that we unlocked last time. As you can see, household goods are made with steel and glass, both things that we know in other situations in our base already produce recyclables. Now, we're not going to produce this just to create recyclables. That's like recyclables are a subsidy towards something. They don't pay for themselves or anywhere near that. But we kind of want to produce these anyway. For two reasons. One, household goods are, like we said, a consumable for our settlement. If we provide them, we'll get unity, just like we do for providing electricity, water, and food. That's its own good. The other reason that we should probably do this is it's actually pretty straightforward. It comes from wood, steel, and glass. And if you'll remember, when we made our paper, we said that excess paper that we are definitely producing can mix with these household goods and some electronics too, which we will get to in an episode or 3, to make this office supplies. Office supplies are consumed by a building called an office, not just purely to make recyclables, but to unlock something similar to edicts, like what we get in our captain's office. So we're going to want to do it anyway, is what I'm trying to say. So let's do that real quick before we unlock our refinery. It's actually a very straightforward process. It's a 3 flat input situation. Something, actually let's do it like this, but with a different recipe, right? This will be more than we need for quite some time. And we will want, actually, first and foremost, to supply these to our base. So we'll do a flat balancer situation. I guess we'll have to go, yeah, let's do it like this, I think. We'll switch the order here and say, that's unfortunate. There we go. We'll say first and foremost, send them down this way. And we'll say priority out to a household goods module, which we'll place here. Like so, maybe. And whatever leftovers out here. Now, why would we keep any leftovers? Like I said, this can go to our office supplies production. We can also trade these with contracts, which is kind of neat. So let's bring over also a steel, and we can just leverage this same log output, I think. I suppose we'd have to move this over. Is that worth it? What's it going to cost us? Yeah. Net 4. I think I'm okay with that. Save ourselves an input here. Something like that. So that's right, this is a U-shaped. Meets back up there. I think you'll have to flip directions, but then perfect, that goes right back to how it was. Then we can bring this to maybe there. Why not, right? Flip that direction, flip that direction. Remove this. Glass on the bottom seems fine to me. If we then say steel here. Done, done, and done, right? think we could probably move the whole thing over a little bit, tidy it up. So let's do that. And I'll replace that in a moment. But basically this is probably fine with just a flat lift up 1 and enter. Cool. Now, how much do we need? Well, it's something like 10 of these per 1,000 residents. So we need 12.6, which means just one is going to be just fine for now. No problem. So let's get that household goods module back in here. Move this over 1. Something else to keep in mind that we're doing here as a result of this is blocking off this area. I'm fine with that. I don't really want our trucks zipping around back here anyway, frankly. Of course, they'll need access back here to service these spaces, but this entry road seems fine, and we'll probably make use of this space, one, by either expanding some of these in the future, so it's good to reserve, or two, we are, as I said, going to have to produce office supplies here somewhere, and these are 2 of the inputs, right? Okay. Connect that there. Let's say no rush, but please do build all of this. We will have to build this entire down and back, but that's okay. The other thing we could do, if we really want trucks to get in here, and again, I'm not doing this now, but just to illustrate, we could, well, either make lifts and a small entrance here, or put a ramp, although we'd have to trim this back. Did I just talk myself into lifts? I might have. Bear with me. It's easier before we build it, right? So, well, I guess this will need to be a little bit higher. Let's just say like that. Like that. And what we can do here instead is remove these. Go here. Seems like the right height. Bring her back around. All right, so priority, of course, for our consumption here. And I wish it would, it's strange to me. Trucks honor these preview, I keep calling them blueprints. That's not actually, there's a technical term in this game called a blueprint that is not what I'm referring to here. These sketches, these reservations that are not yet built, what do they call it? Planning mode. These planning mode ghost buildings. Trucks will drive around them as if they're built there, which would make me think that the can you drive here preview mode should work, right? Because I'd like to know, did I leave enough space here? I actually have to build it first to find that out, which is too bad because that is not when I would like to know that knowledge. I've made a commitment at that point that I then have to undo. Minor complaint, but would be more convenient. All right. Well, that's going. And when we check back in later, this should hopefully be spitting some stuff out. The other reason that we want to supply this is we're pretty full up here, right? I'd love to get, because we're about to add a whole bunch of jobs here. We need more people, we have no space. We're about to get housing 3. And in fact, we should queue it up after the refinery stuff finishes here in a second. I'd love to build upwards, and you get additional bonus for supplying household goods starting at that level. So that lowers the barrier to doing that. Now that said, I don't think we can wait for that research. I think we're going to need, let's just call this a temporary 80 construction parts 1. We'll delete this in this episode when we're able to upgrade here. But we need more housing because we are out of workers and don't have the space for them. Maybe, oh, that's an oil rig. We'll do a quick adopt here to get more workers. Okay, there it is. That's now caught up. And there we go. Beacon going again. Cool. All right, so let's talk about the refinery expansion. You'll remember when we built this way back in the day that we said there is eventually a 3rd stage. Today is the day that we use it. So, at its simplest, this stage, let's orient it this way, takes in the light oil that we are currently sending out here to be burnt, preferentially out at our power plant, and it refines it further. It does take more steam, but it turns this light oil 100%. We will just no longer have light oil in the base. Light oil will become like medium oil, immediately consumed by its successor building. And it turns it into this naphtha and this fuel gas. Now we saw fuel gas last time, right? We make fuel gas in the anaerobic digester for processing our sludge. We use fuel gas over here at the incineration plant. Now, as you can see, we don't make enough trash to go through all the fuel gas that we're producing as a base. Keep that in mind. We have a use for it. There will even be some other uses for it. Guess we don't have... We don't? Yeah, okay. There's an upgrade to this rotary kiln called the gas kiln. That's a little bit more efficient, but takes fuel gas instead of coal. And there will be other spots that we can produce it. But I think the important take home here is going to be we are producing more fuel gas than we will probably be able to consume in the short term. So we're going to have to do something about that because this is a refinery process, right? We have these flares here to burn off anything that isn't diesel that piles up if we can't find a better use for it, because we need this whole thing to run continuously so that we do still have our diesel. And you can see we're kind of running a little bit low on our diesel here. So this is nicely timed. Why is it nicely timed? Well, what can you do with these two things? Naphtha, you can use for rubber. Now, if this sounds familiar or looks familiar, that's because same building, same sets of recipes, but naphtha can be a 1-to-1 substitute for diesel. Well, that's great. We're essentially increasing our diesel production by decreasing our diesel consumption because we have to have rubber. Rubber is a key input for electronics. Electronics is a key input a bunch of places around the base. So, okay, I'm paying attention to our alerts, but that is not one I care about yet. So, in order to indirectly increase our diesel production, we are going to reduce our diesel consumption by subbing in naphtha. Great. We can also burn it in a gas boiler, same as we would with light oil. In fact, in the exact same volumes. This is a helpful, I think, reference for how, because it can be really hard to, in your head, right, compare which of these is more valuable and which do you want to turn to this or that. This is a good way to sort of anchor yourself to, for lack of a better term, the energy density of each of these stages. For the same water to put out the same steam in the same building, different volumes of these products are required. So what that means is heavy oil requires the least volume, 36, to produce the same output. Light oil requires 54. So it is less energy dense. It requires more of it to produce the same energetic output, right? So you can see that there's not a change, essentially, from this perspective, in the energy density of these two products. But that further processing, it does require steam on the input side. So it's not exactly a big energy positive reaction. Why are we doing it? We're doing it again, as I said, just to avoid consuming more diesel over here. Plus, we do also get out this fuel gas. Now, same point, right? Fuel gas, even less energy dense. Less polluting, by the way. CO2 is half as much as exhaust, right? But not only do we essentially retain this energy density in a slightly smaller volume, right? So that's a decrease, but we do get 12 of this fuel gas as well. Now, like I said, we're making more than we're going to consume. What do we do to make sure that we have, ideally, a productive use for this excess fuel gas so we don't just have to flare it off, right? Remember, we flared off light oil and heavy oil until we were able to set it up to use them to fuel our ship and our power plant. Well, what can you do with excess fuel gas? Flare it, sure. Burn it, sure. Our outputs get complicated because it's CO2 instead of exhaust, but it's manageable. I did mention these other spots where we either already are using or can additionally use small volumes. It's just not a lot, which means we need a system to process it into something, ideally, that we do use. And that is what cracking is for. So, this cracking unit, which by the way can do 1 million of these conversions in the longer run, we just have to unlock them first. This cracking unit can take oxygen, which we produce here and there. We can create an air separator pretty easily, and it'll turn it into diesel and water. So again, we're actually going to get more diesel out of this process, not just the diesel cost avoidance for the rubber production, but also additional volume of diesel. And hey, some water as a nice little bonus. So these are the two stages that we have to add. It's really straightforward. We left the space for this distillation stage 3. We're gonna have to adjust some piping. We aren't producing light oil anymore, right? But we are gonna be producing this naphtha. So I'm gonna go into a time lapse, slap these all down, build a small cracking area. But you're gonna see me reuse a lot of the same piping infrastructure, and we'll turn this light oil output, which again we will not use anymore, into a naphtha output. And we will update everywhere we're burning light oil to say also naphtha. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I will walk through it again at the end once it's built and laid out so that it's not just me talking verbally. I'm a visual learner, maybe some of you are too, so we'll go through it again quickly at the end, but let me get everything down. This will be ready to research here shortly as well. All right, talk soon. Hey, me again. One quick clarification while the time lapse is going. I thought that the fuel gas plus oxygen into diesel plus water cracking recipe that we're about to build here is unlocked with the reforming and cracking tech that we've just now finished researching. But I noticed while rewatching, as eagle-eyed viewers may also have, that we were able to place the cracking unit with that recipe before that research finished, which I did to sort of illustrate the recipe. And I thought, that's odd. So I went back and I looked, and yeah, it turns out it's actually already unlocked at the naphtha processing tech. Reforming and cracking just give you some other clever recipes that we aren't using yet. No harm done, we just unnecessarily researched a tech early, but just to clarify, it is not strictly required for today's build. So, back to the music. I think we're back. So, to trace it through, we quickly added stage 3 and all these spots. We simply extended our steam pipe outputs. This part was actually relatively straightforward, right? Because we had kind of set this all up with this in mind in the longer run. And then these outputs, again, it's naphtha now, but it's the exact same pipes that used to house, but are now nice and empty, our light oil. Now it'll come back to the same spot, and it'll have, once this all clears out, the exact same sets of priority here early. We'll want to send it to storage first, because storage will then meet up with the output here, and we'll say there's no restriction on this. Like, the second there's a drop in here, it's going to try to go out here. This will take priority over diesel, but diesel will still be here as a backup in case we need it for rubber, only if we have sufficient amounts. That's what this bar does. So the only way that diesel flows through here to rubber is if we're out of, this will be naphtha, but we have enough diesel that we're willing to burn it to run rubber, right? Does that series of conditionals make sense? Hopefully. But we'll still tell, we're going to adjust this afterwards. Right now we're asking trucks to just clear it out entirely, which means send it to the power plant. But we'll adjust this so that if it does get full, we'll either burn it here, right? Or it'll go out to the power plant. So we'll have to make those adjustments as we unpause, but that's okay. The other output is fuel gas. Now, fuel gas, we collect up. I'm trying to remember which one of these outputs it actually is, but I think it's this one. All right. We collect up in this bottom pipe from all 4 of these, and the first thing we do is we send it to this storage. Now, this storage is allowed to do import and export, meaning that we can take from here to fuel elsewhere in the base, but also we can bring here. We're not going to demand that it comes here, but you can bring it here if you're full up somewhere else that you don't want to be, i.e. here, right? That's different than out here where we say, please keep this full. So this is a buffer in multiple senses. Like 1, it's here in case we suddenly need a bunch of this storage. 2, it's a buffer in both directions. We can bring excess fuel gas here and burn it, process it rather, if we need to. Or we can export, depending on the situation of our base at the time. And the way that we've quote unquote coded that with our logic here is that if this is ever, call it 3/4 full, then we'll decide, okay, that's probably enough. And we may adjust this, maybe it'll be half in the long run, but its point is when it's mostly full, we don't ever want this to be full, because then it'll be backed up. But when this is mostly full, we need to start sending that excess along this pipe out here, all the friggin' way to our cracking units, which also receive oxygen from here. And this sends its nitrogen, if you remember this, to the exact same future possible user of nitrogen to make more ammonia. But if it doesn't accept that, which it obviously doesn't yet today and probably won't for some time yet, then we've got a little output just to vent off that nitrogen, again, as we're doing for this air separator. Okay. What I didn't touch on yet is the randomly interrupting organic fertilizer setup I finally built out. We don't, I don't think, actually have to build this today, but I realized that it was going to be a moving part. We might build this today, but I had to at least know where it was going to go, right? Because this was likely to intersect with it. And I wanted to get it up over out of the way here because there's a decent chance that we need to expand this cracking area out here. So this room, and by the way, all the room out this way that we'll fill in as we need to, is now dedicated to cracking because this is the first, but probably not the last, time that we are going to talk about how to break down a refinery product into something else we prefer. This, as we said, outputs diesel and water. The water goes back, I think this is the water pipe, we're going to find out together, here, to the same water output for recycling that our sour water stripper complex outputs to, which is why I had to Unity build this right away again, because it's actively being used. This water then comes back here to be recycled to help run our boilers, which is far and away our biggest water consumer in this area. But I set this priority, actually we'll do it like this. I set this balancer here so that we could prioritize outputting water over here to the mixer for organic fertilizer. The other reason it made sense to bring it over here, right? Oops, a thing I forgot to do is to connect these outputs. But organic fertilizer, if I could properly click the belts, there we go. Organic fertilizer will take this You can drop off compost here, by the way. And if you need to, we'll make it out of biomass, right? This is, you can send it here, but you don't have to, because we would prefer if we can burn it over the power plant. This is whatever is excess here. But we also make compost. You'll remember you can dump compost, but you make compost also over here. And in fact, I think what we'll do is say, yeah, okay, great. Please do bring it here. We prefer that you bring it here rather than dump it. Now, if you have to dump it, that's fine. But you can't take it from here to go dump it. You have to bring it here. Any excess can get dumped. Dirt, please bring here. Please keep full. Okay. I then also added what seems probably superfluous, but a little bit of a buffer here. That's because this ratio is weird. 48 out, 30 in. It'll be 60 in if we end up building the second one. Sort of an odd ratio, and so I prefer that there's a buffer to sort of pull and push, you know, to sort of smooth out that demand curve, if that makes sense. Last thing I'm going to do, because these squiggly belts are bothering me, is shift that guy one tile left. Another classic move on my part that I'm sure is on your bingo cards if you're following along at home. But we're gonna have to look at it the rest of the game. Don't we want it to look good? I do. Did I do that right? Obviously, have to change the recipe. Again, we want to prioritize the version with dirt just because it takes less compost, right? It's more efficient if we actually have the dirt, and boy do we ever, it's dirt. So that's why that's there. And then this we will connect back up there. And actually, now that I look at this, this is probably a more efficient way to run this as well, right? It is like so rather than like so. Okay, last sanity check here. Everywhere a truck needs to drop off, they can, right? This dirt is what I'm most concerned about. And again, this is where I would really like the preview, but I'm pretty confident that a truck can get far enough back here to reach and dump it. Man, I hope that's true, because I really don't feel like rebuilding this. Maybe, oh my God, he's doing it again. He's doing it again, guys. We can make a little bit more space with that adjustment. Now I'm definitely confident. Okay, so this little delivery point gives us access to all of these while still maintaining a pretty compact footprint. Okay, I'm done tweaking, I swear. So, things we need to build right away then, right? Stage 3 for each of these, not just because we want to use it, but because we have to, otherwise these are full. They are outputted. All of the outputs, including these sneaky little steam guys over here. Output, output. We're going to have to build all of this right away. Fuel gas. Central line. Output. This is specific to this set, so we don't need that one. I think this is all correct. You. We'll build the whole cracking setup right away. We don't need this extra fertilizer production yet. This does need to happen. This is water all the way back. As does this. Let's build the organic fertilizer setup, right? Man, we are going to be so short on pops in like, I don't know, 5 minutes time. That is going to create a bit of a bit of an issue for us, but I think we are cool with it. Okay, unpause. While that's building, we'll need to change this. Someone's coming for it. All right, you know what? Good enough. To naphtha. Now again, naphtha we want to, you know what, if anyone has naphtha, that's fine, they can bring it here. We want to flow out here with no restrictions, really, right? We only want this to back up if we are using all the naphtha. Because right now you can see, I think we are still flowing some diesel, yeah. Which we don't really want to do. We want it to be overcrowded by the naphtha. Of course we aren't making any yet. The other thing I want to keep an eye on is at a certain point, this runs out and we need to build the second one. I don't think we're there yet, but we're going to find out. There is still a little bit of light oil in this system as well. We'll leave this recipe on just to sort of burn through it. And then we'll get back to heavy oil and all of that. Not enough workers. 6 months. Adopt. Where can we pause? What did we do last time? We said this was a fine thing to let it go for a minute. That will help. This will go. Yeah, no question. We are cruising through our parts. That's fine. It is in fact to be expected. Let's use some Unity here. That's why we have it. I don't think we're going to use enough 2s to be too concerned there. Checking back in on glass. Seems to be working at full speed. The glass mix is not coming in super fast because that also needs upgraded. Yep, that makes sense. But the coal, hopefully, yep, does seem to be keeping up, as does the slag export, as does the exhaust, which is a thing we need to keep in mind. Okay, that's good. By the way, we can, I think, make the blast furnace 2 upgrade over here as well, right? And wouldn't you look at that? It actually doesn't require a third resource like limestone or sand. This is what copper requires, by the way. So we actually could... Well, we can't upgrade this glass maker, so it wouldn't really fit in our setup, but instead of Unity boosting here, we could just upgrade this directly. It's a longer term commitment. It's expensive. Probably not going to do it right now. Something to keep in mind. Refugees. That'll help. I'm going to immediately use them in all of these buildings, I am sure. Yeah, so see, we had plenty of biomass still to clear out. And the thing is, if this gets full, like, it just turns into trash. It turns into more waste, right? It doesn't get backed up, or people don't get mad, I don't think. I think it just backs up, and we sort of create more trash as a result. So this is not the end of the world, but it's better than burning trash if we could turn this into something better. So we'll try to do that. We're sorting plant, full output. Good, that means we're doing just fine over here. Would be nice to keep this a little bit lower, I suppose. Is anyone coming for this? Do we not have anywhere we can dump? Yeah, there it is. Cool. This is, I mean, you know, minor delay, but this is good. We are making progress getting over here. Because one of the other things I want to do for the refinery, it seems unlikely we're on track for it today, but right, is to start pulling the oil from over here. There's housing 3. Up she goes. In fact, I'll even Unity do it. And once that's done, we'll delete this. It's not our pretty 3x3 square, therefore it must go. This production is working though, or not? It is not, because naturally, we are missing a key part here. Steel keeping up? Do we need to boost this temporarily? Probably. Let's just do half. We have the Unity. Why would we just do half? Do the whole thing. Remember we set up last time this cute little hack here to make sure that we actually were able to keep this running at full speed? So hopefully exhaust is going to be an issue there then. Now, is that because we're clogged up here, or is it because the pipeline's not thick enough? If this is full by the time we get to the end, it's not. That doesn't mean we won't also have to deal with that later, but this is first and foremost a pipeline issue. On both of these lines, or just this one? Just this one. Okay. So what we can do, and it's in all of these, right? This isn't a weird artifact. This is, okay, that means it's the entire line, which means that this entire line could go up to a Mark III pipe. These are expensive. They are. Actually, now that I think about it, is it because it's joining up with anything else? No, it's not, because that one's not built yet. Yeah, it's just like genuinely, because it's the bottom pipe this whole way through, it is genuinely too full, which means even if I click here, right? I would have thought. Now it seems pretty full over here. Is there like a weird spot where we only have Mark 1? I mean, this is one big segment all the way through. Or am I looking at the wrong thing? Yeah, it's the top one. Excuse me, my fault. So the top one is full all the way through. Okay, now is this one meeting up? Because we just saw the other one has some spare. This one is meeting up here. Maybe we could do, maybe just as like a small buffer just between the two pipes is allow it to balance out, right? Because this should make use of the excess space in this pipe. We can see it filling up and take a little bit of the pressure off of this pipe. Now, I bet that is still overall increasing this, yeah. But I think once we do this, so the CO2 output will become an issue then, but we can fix that. This is a much smaller pipe segment, right? To have to Mark III. So that was worth the troubleshooting, I think. Now, I'm wondering if this will have any downstream implications for power, because that's 96. But here's the thing, we're not actually burning all 960, it was just more than 480, so we have to double up. But I think this works. So in the future, when we want, assuming this is all running now just fine, it is, when we want to boost this entire situation, we do have to boost the exhaust scrubber. I actually don't mind leaving the exhaust scrubber boosted overall. Like 0.25 Unity to just never have to think about this, I'm probably just gonna leave it on, frankly. And we can can claw back some of it over here because this is not just working again, it is in fact all the way caught up, so that's nice. And, oh nice, we're even pretty caught up over here. Let's do those real quick. Be done with that. Okay, so how is this system working? Pretty well, it seems. So the naphtha is filling up over here. I think it means it's time to push it out, which means we're gonna have to come over here, change this to naphtha, and you accept naphtha, but you do not demand it because we push it out here. Because I'm willing to bet that in the meanwhile, okay, we're not there yet, we caught it actually just in time, but eventually, right, this will be full up, backing up these machines if we don't do something about it. Now we are sending some over to get cracked, I'm sure, right? Yep, this is coming around. So these are working, not at full capacity, but like, you know, they're doing some work here, okay? And that's helping to keep this low as well, I'm sure. In fact, right, so watch what happens when this truck comes here. I'm assuming because this is full, that he won't take it from there. But in fact, he does. This is him. He brings it over here. And now this, because it's excess, will then run down to here. Okay, and then we keep this here. Now, if someone needs fuel gas later, they can come get it from here too. But any excess can be brought here. And this 80 that we've left room for is larger than our biggest truck. So any large truck should be able to bring over a big pile of it and drop it off here, and then that excess will flow around to be cracked and turned into diesel and water. Power is broken. What did I do? Did this all just require more? What do you mean not enough data? Don't give me that. All right, well, we must have broken it with our exhaust scrubber? Oh, our exhaust scrubber filled up. Aha, meaning that the steam to which it had become accustomed isn't coming through. All right, I did say at the end of the last episode we got to figure out something to do with all this sulfur now. And, well, we didn't figure out something to do with all this sulfur, huh? Temporary answer. Is going to be more storage. That is not going to fix this, but I just want to see if that's truly what's causing our issue. And if so, it will buy us some time. But otherwise, I think, because don't we have, we have this backup system here. So this should be firing if that were the problem. All right, what's happening here? Are these firing? They're not. Exhaust is full. Because this has backed up our entire IC. Ooh. We probably can't have... It's fine if our industrial stuff gets backed up by a power scrubber. We cannot, or an exhaust scrubber, we cannot have our power depend on that, right? That's a design flaw. Okay, so what we do is we say, okay, fine. We do try our very best to send that exhaust to be cleaned. But if that is not possible, that's fine. We vent it, but we have to have a way for this to get processed. This cannot, our little sulfur issue here cannot be a power problem for us. This is going to take a second to get back into things here, unfortunately, because why are you not getting exhaust? Because you don't have power. Okay. So we need to basically... Problem is we can't even really re-jumpstart this, right? Because now even our balancers require power, right? Ooh, this is like actually a problem because we flow our steam through a balancer. All right, so what we have to do now, just to get this whole dang thing going again. Well, it might be time for a diesel generator. We could play around with the pipes and sort of short circuit the balancer and just get something going again. But why don't we? We're not going to have it on. It's going to be paused by default. I learned my lesson last time. No, I don't think we can do that either. There was I thought we had got along the way. Yeah, we never did. The large generator. This would be enough. So 800, it's how much we produce, right? 800 kilowatts, which is what the small one does, is not enough to get enough back online to jumpstart this. 5 megawatts would be, right? It'd be half of our power. So what we actually have to do is we need to shortcut temporarily this output. Whew. I hope this works. I think this works, but I also hope this works. It's going to take a second, but you can see the steam is starting to flow through here. Are you going? Right, so then your exhaust output will also need sorted. That little burst of steam going through isn't going to be enough, is it? Probably not. All right. Temporarily, we have to unplug this entire system and vent it directly so that this can run continuously enough to jumpstart everything else. And now you don't have products. My goodness. Because the lift requires power. Folks, this is a death loop. If you hadn't figured it out by now, this is what a death loop looks like. All right. Woo! So we are gonna have to do a series of generators after all. Really hate to do this, but maybe we'll just do it back here again anyway. Once this is sorted, we will be undoing it for sure, or sort of pausing it. Maybe we'll leave it as a monument to our shame for a minute. But that is going to have to work. It's going to torch our diesel here as well, but hopefully, good. That is enough to jumpstart this process, which should help us climb all the way back up. We have enough now. Whew. To keep this going. And we're back, folks. Jeez. Hey, we got a Deathloop on stream. So that's something. It's not what I set out to do this episode, I'll tell you that. But okay. All right. Hey, this is what we actually came over here to do, for goodness sake. I think that's probably our priority list. Yeah, so that's what you have to do. You have to figure out exactly what it is that you did, because that's how this game works. It's very frustrating. This is my fault, right? That is what happens. But you have to figure out what it is that you did. You have to diagnose the problem correctly. Then you have to think about how to undo it. And it's way more complicated than Control-Z because it creates a series of cascading problems. That's why it's a loop, right? Now that our flywheel's all the way back up, we can delete this pipe and rebuild this the way that it was supposed to go. Like so. Now, this, right? This balancer should keep that problem from happening again. If this exhaust scrubber is full and backed up, it's going to be a problem. We're definitely going to know it's a problem because everything else that produces exhaust is going to back up, and that's fine. I'll live with knowing that our steel plant isn't working as much as it could be. What I will not live with is our power plant going offline. So, design flaw fixed, right? That should not happen again, but it was more complicated than simply installing that to bring us back to life, right? Now we've done that. We're gonna maybe not delete those immediately yet, but what I will do is get a more efficient generator set up online there. Now, the other thing, by the way, that we were lucky on is that we had Unity to build. If we didn't have Unity to quick build a lot of that, and we weren't super efficient, right? I tried a couple different things before we really got where we wanted to go. We could have been in real trouble there, right? So, something else to keep in mind. Never a bad idea to make sure that you always have a little bit of Unity lying around. Okay, let's finish up what we were trying to do here. Claw back the Unity. Steel's coming back. This is working, by the way. Our cute little trick here, I think, does work. So that's nice. Why are these? Yeah, so they're exhaust full now too. All right, so this is good to know. We can't actually continuously do that with our existing pipe setup, right? So maybe what we do, because this is the one that flows into the other, is we just do one big upgrade here. I think we do. And that should be okay. I don't mind running one of those. It's something, by the way, an implicit inefficiency that I accepted but did not call out by building the single unified scrubber over here. By definition, if you're taking a bunch of different factories and putting them together, unless this happens to be directly in the middle, and like this isn't the worst placement, right? Considering where we're drawing from, but you're gonna run a lot of pipes. And with exhaust, you're gonna run a lot of large pipes, because again, it's 480 without a boost, right? And these pipes all take maintenance, the larger ones even more, and they restrict your building. What we could have done is a series of exhaust scrubbers out at each of these factories, or like shared between 2 instead of 5. You can do that. Now that inefficiency is you got to build several of these. And I didn't feel like doing that either, but that's okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we didn't do everything that I wanted to do today, but I think it was a good little lesson along the way. So I'll take that. The good news is that we did build all of the refinery additions that we wanted to build, even if for some reason the water is backing up here. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's what happens when you film on a Friday afternoon, folks. But hey, you know what? You're going to play this game on a Friday afternoon sometimes. It's a fun game. You should play it on a Friday afternoon. When you do, remember to add all the right recipes in. Remember to think through everything. And maybe most importantly, expect that some flaws are going to pop up along the way. And be fine with that. Troubleshooting, understanding what went wrong, iterating, improving is absolutely all part of the fun of this game. So if you're frustrated by it, that's fine. Take a break. Take a break, take a walk. All good. It's supposed to be fun. But I find these things fun. The troubleshooting. And frankly, the suddenly very high stakes, right? It's kind of also a very fun sudden crisis management piece, right? It's entertaining, to me at least, hopefully to you as well, watching me squirm. Okay, so still more to do. What didn't we do? And where are we going with it? Well, I'm going to continue to upgrade housing here, but we did manage to supply household goods, I thought. Why are we not supplying household goods? Oh my goodness, folks. Take two. We did manage to supply household goods. There we go. To our people. That will boost our unity. Okay. As a result, I think we're comfortable also upgrading this and deleting this respectively. We did the fundamental rewiring of a tier 3 refinery. This is good. This is really good. Like, I bet our oil is piling up. That's probably the best way to tell, right? We've got enough for a trip, but we're not totally empty here. We are, because of the rubber diesel consumption cost avoidance, right? Because we're burning naphtha instead, or using naphtha instead for rubber. We're saving on diesel consumption there, meaning we're getting more truck and boat fuel time, if that unit makes sense, per unit of oil. We are also cracking excess fuel gas into diesel. And we built a nice little, let's call this a defibrillator, right? I'm gonna add in the number 2 over here. In fact, I will add 2. Let's go here and here. Much exhaust, enough for a single one, I guess. Let's build like this. We should get these built, but then immediately paused. And they'll need their smokestack as well. Please don't actually burn that diesel though. All right, so our backup system is more properly wired. Our housing is increasing, and this is the thing. If you go up to 3, it starts to penalize you for not supplying household goods. So it's not that you can't go up, you'll still get the space, right? But you won't get the unity. But now you can see as it's starting to kick in, and there's still room to go, but as it's starting to kick in, we're generating quite a bit of unity, which is awesome. So we've upgraded our settlement, providing more goods. We've upgraded our refinery. We're doing better on fertilizer, even. Something that's easy to forget here. This was a bumpy ride, but I think a good one. Now we're on a timer again here, so next episode, we're gonna have to figure out what to do with the sulfur. We are going to probably start thinking about an import-export setup for this refinery now that it's grown a bit further. It makes a lot of things, and a lot of those things go across the base. So I think there's probably going to be a train station in our future. Could be another one up here too, by the way. So let's see where we go, but plenty still to do and good learning experience today. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you did as well. As always, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.